How's it going, guys? Cody, we're back again. We're dropping yet another video. Right, guys, I'm back. Had a bit of a rest, had to recharge my batteries, fell out of love with it. We're back. Anyway, this is a story in the Liverpool Echo, as you can see from the title below. Rapist who ruined children's lives given shorter jail sentence. Now, obviously, for those that don't know, I was sexually abused when I was younger by someone that lived local to my mum and my stepdad in Royton, near Oldham, in Greater Manchester. I despise, with a passion, paedophiles. I'm going to do the story, going to do my bit at the end. Let's get into it. This story in the Liverpool Echo, guys, link in the description below like I always do. Headline reads, Rapist who ruined children's lives given shorter jail sentence. A judge explained the reasons why. There should be no reasons why. Sympathetic paedophilia and judges and the system all go hand in hand, in my opinion. Jason Downey, 48, of Trent Close, Rainhill, the four-eyed rapist, paedophile that you can see at the start of the video, guys, admitted 9 counts of gross indecency with a child. He was jailed for just 4.5 years. A married man who once raped a little boy and a little girl was jailed for just 4.5 years. Jason Downey, 48, of Trent Close, Rainhill, molested 3 boys in Huyton in the 1980s when he was 15. He raped a boy who was only aged 3 or 4, raped a girl under the age of 10, and groped another girl under the age of 10. Ooh. Liverpool Crown Court heard Downey, now a dad of 3, blamed his sick crimes on his absent parents. Judge David Aubrey QC today said, for many years, indeed decades, you held on to a dark secret. You're not the only one who has kept these offences stored in the mind. So have your victims, who were such a tender age when you sexually abused them. Last year, the first girl told police Downey rubbed himself against her, made her touch and masturbate him, performed sex acts on her, and then raped her. John Wynne Williams, prosecuting, said she recalled him being cruel and once destroying her teddy bear. The now adult woman was left feeling like sex was nothing, had difficulty forming sexual relationships, and believed the abuse was her fault. The victim said she hated herself and her body, felt angry and endured nightmares during which she saw Downey's face. She said, I hate Downey for what he did to me. He took away my childhood, my innocence, and affected me for the rest of my life. The boy said Downey stripped him naked to play a man and woman game, made him perform a sex act on him, and then raped him. The now adult male said, I had to hide it away from people, keep it locked inside. It left me wondering if it was my fault. It caused me much confusion, and I struggled being around children. He said he stopped him taking roles where he would be close to children in case people thought he was like Downey. The man said it made him question his own sexuality and still suffered constant nightmares. The victim said, this had effects on the relationship with my son. It's always in the back of my mind. Don't get too close, don't hug too much. I believed it was something within me. I now realise it wasn't. I was just a child. Even in primary school it affected me. I was lashing out at teachers. I couldn't tell anyone, and to the outside world I just looked like a naughty kid. Downey has ruined my life. He ruined my childhood and exploited my vulnerability. Even years later, it has affected my day-to-day life. The second girl said Downey, once rubbed her bottom and didn't want to make a victim statement as she felt too embarrassed. The woman said, having to talk about it is just awful. It really is horrible. Downey confessed to the police, said he was sorry and claimed he didn't intend to hurt his victims but couldn't help himself. He admitted 9 counts of gross indecency with a child, 2 of which will be classified as rapes under the law today. His past convictions include obtaining property by deception, theft, and possessing cannabis in 1990. Cheryl Mottram defending, how can you defend the indefensible? Said Downey's parents roughed him down the local pub and left him to raise himself. She said as a result, he didn't have the emotional support, boundaries or discipline as a child required. Miss Mottram said he was a hard-working dad with children aged 9, 17 and 25, along with his wife, were devastated. She said this happened at a time when Mr. Downey was a very different man to the man he is now. Judge Aubrey said it was an extremely difficult sentencing exercise. No, it's not. He said, you took away from your 3 victims their childhood, happiness and innocence. The judge added, you have scarred them all greatly and in truth given them a life sentence. However, he said he will take into account the fact Downey was just 15 at the time and the findings of a psychiatric report. Judge Aubrey said, you received little or no parental support, your parents were seldom home, and it can be said you come from a dysfunctional family. The psychiatrist states that in consequence of that neglect, it is highly likely you would not have understood your actions as being wrong and detrimental to your victim. Bollocks. The court cannot accept that you had no understanding to the extent that it would extinguish your culpability, but the court accepts that given the lack of development and guidance, it reduces your culpability. But I'm satisfied you knew you were crossing the boundary for your own sexual gratification. Judge Aubrey said Downey had worked hard and raised a family since without committing any further crimes. He added, the court accepts that you were remorseful and you've expressed abhorrence at your wrongdoing. The judge said there must be a substantial reduction in the sentence to reflect Downey's then age and immaturity. He said, under sentencing guidelines, he must have to bear in mind the maximum sentence at the time for a single count of gross indecency was 10 years, while a 15-year maximum would have been 12 months in custody. He should have given him a sentence of 6 years in prison after trial, but taking into account his guilty plea, he'll be reduced to 4.5 years. Downey hung his head in shame and cried as Judge Aubrey told him to sign the sex offenders register indefinitely, whilst jailing him for 4.5 years. Now, I'm not being funny, right? Who here watching this video has come from a dysfunctional family that's parents had either split up or there was domestic abuse at home, your parents might have had addictions, alcoholism, things like that, right? How many of you have gone on to nonce children? I came from a dysfunctional family. I grew up without a father. I had a stepfather, right? And I had a really bad childhood, very violent upbringing, right? I didn't go on to nonce children, did I? No, absolutely not. So that's a fucking load of shit, cop out. Oh, I had a bad childhood, so that's why I did what I did. Right, and the judge was sympathetic to him. It's an extremely hard sentencing exercise. No, it's not. No, it's fucking not. Right? Just because, did you hear him? Back then, because obviously they have to sentence him as they would have done back in 1985 or 1984, whatever it was, when these offences were committed. Right, and they said for a single count, the maximum was 10 years. For one count. So why not give him the maximum? Oh, because he's worked hard and he's raised a family. And what annoys me, how they go on to say he hasn't committed a crime or an offence since he committed these offences, or since 1998 or 1990, whatever it was, right? No, all it means is he hasn't been caught, right? You cannot rehabilitate a sex offender, right? Take into consideration, this guy had got away for these crimes for decades, right? So there was an air of invincibility about him. So he'd probably think, fucking hell, I can do this and I can get away with it. Then feelings, those sexual attractions to children do not go away. They absolutely don't go away. And he'll be in prison. And I remember doing a video about, I think the sex offenders treatment program, SOTP, which was called, I think it's called Horizon now, right? Because I did a story on this channel previous where it said sex offenders were interviewed and they said that the course they was on actually made them have deviant thoughts. The course didn't work. It's now been discredited. It's gone. And they brought in this Horizon, right? Now, like I've said, with this Jason Downey, right? Look at the state of him. Oh, he's worked hard. He's raised 3 children, right? You're a nonce. You're a paedophile, right? And if, like I said, he shouldn't survive prison. But like I said, unfortunately, these people live their lives in protection within prison. He'll be in Oak Course. He'll be in Walton. He'll be in Oak Course or Walton. Like I said, he cried and shameful, right? I hope that more victims come forward now, because there's definitely going to be more victims, right? This guy got away with it, guys, for decades and decades and decades, right? So he's thinking, I can do this at will and not get caught, right? Now, as I've said to people 1,000 times, you cannot rehabilitate a sex offender, right? If you go to prison with a sexual attraction to children, right, you will leave sexually attracted to children. If you go to prison sexually attracted to men, you will leave sexually attracted to men. If you go to prison sexually attracted to women, you will leave sexually attracted to women, right? This guy, this Jason Downey, needs to do us all a favour, hang himself in his cell so he can't reoffend. I'm hoping that his wife and his children don't stand by him during this. They should all cut ties with him. The guy's a dirty nonce. His name's all over the papers. He's going to have to sign a sex offenders register. People in the local area in Rainhill are going to know what he is. Trent Close in Rainhill. Obviously, he's in prison now, but eventually he's going to get out. All the neighbours are going to know. Yep, that's that fucking pedo. And if there's kids in that area, the paedophile will be flushed out and stuff, and houses can be targeted and things like that. Now, his wife. If I don't care how much you love someone, if you are with a nonce, right, nonce, paedophile, sex offender, whatever you want to call it, and they get caught and get charged or whatever, just go, just leave them. I would, because I've got moral thing about me where I'd just be like, nah, I'm sorry, we've got kids. He could have abused his own children. You can't say that he definitely wouldn't. You can't say that. And like I said, look at the stare of the man. I'm just looking at the man. I use the word man, right, with brackets and stuff, because like I said, no man would ever commit that offence, right? But a young 9 counts, right, against 2 girls and 1 boy, predator, and he's not remorseful at all. He's sorry he got caught. That's the truth of the matter, right? And like I've said, yes, he might have gone on to marry and have 3 kids. Doesn't mean he didn't go on carrying on committing offences against his potential children when they was babies, when they was young, right? Or other children. And I'm hoping that those other children, if there are other victims, I hope they come forward. Because like I said, there's no smoke without fire. And this guy, it was just an isolated incident. 1 would be an isolated incident. 2, 3, predator behaviour, guys. It's as simple as that. That you cannot rehabilitate these people. And you certainly can't rehabilitate them is if they got off with them. Think about the time between when these victims had the confidence and the bravery to come forward. And my heart, as someone that was abused, my heart absolutely goes out to these people, right? I was abused. It did untold damage to me, right? Lifelong damage, right? And how it shows itself in these people is mental health, self-harm, alcoholism, drug addiction, suicide attempts, and tragically and sadly suicide. It's the reality, guys. Remember, for a time I became a paedophile hunter, right? And I feel very, very strongly about this, 1,000,000%. And like I said, this Jason Downey, 4.5 years, right? I was in prison, right, with a lad who got done for death by dangerous, right, and he got 5 years. If you get caught with a firearm, it's a mandatory 5-year sentence. Mandatory for a firearm. Doesn't matter if you're pointing it at someone, doesn't matter if it's in your property, doesn't matter if you've got it in your hand and you're pointing it at someone, you're getting 5 years straight off the bat. But you can go and rape, sexually, you can rape 2 people, a young boy and a young girl, right, young, under the age of 10, right, and then you can sexually assault another child under the age of 10, and you can get 4.5 years. Someone tell me how that can be. I was in prison with a 57-year-old man, right, Raymond Hughes, from Orton near Liverpool, Southport way, right, who got 9 years for tax evasion. No victim, no physical violence, no sexual assault, no rapes, no sexual grooming, nothing. Got 9 years. I was in prison with a lad who killed someone, right? He hit someone in a car, right? And stopped and everything like that, hold his hands up. He got 4.5 years. This guy's got 4 years, 4.5 years himself. The guy raped a child, another child, and sexually assaulted another. And they're the only ones that we know of, guys. And this guy was walking the streets for decades, went on to father 3 children. I hope so. Well, they're all over the age. I think one of them's just below the age of 18, but they're all over 16. But like I said, this is the thing. I hope social services speak to these children to find out if their dad abused them, because that behaviour, nothing's off the table with these guys, with these people, with this man. And like I said, it's not a man; it's a monster. The dirty, horrible predators, and they should be sentenced. They should be given a life sentence straight off the bat. The victim gets a life sentence, and the judge acknowledged that. He said, "You're taking away their childhoods, their innocence, and you've given them a life sentence. But I'm giving you 4.5 years because the judges, the courts, the system, the parliament, the government, paedophile rings are at play, guys. That's the only thing that I can think of. I'm going to leave this video there. Remember the face, remember the name. Jason Downey, Trent Close, Rainhill. Like I said, he's currently in prison, languishing. Nonce. Dirty, vile nonce. He should do us all a favour, save the taxpayer money, won't be able to reoffend if he hangs himself. I hope that takes place. Going to leave it there, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Cody out.